Welcome to Massive Beers. My name is Matt. We do the beer stuff here. Weird beer time? Hopefully good weird beer time. A little bit more Jester King up in this piece in the form of their Snorkel. Yes, why is this weird beer? This be a Farmhouse ale, not so weird. Brewed with smoked sea salt. Okay, not weird, but... and oyster mushrooms. I guess those combinations kind of weird. Not super weird, but when you think of Jester King, it's actually kind of maybe par for the course. It's 4.3%. Farmhouse hazy, smoked salt, mushrooms. I'm good down with it. Actually picked up this really locally at a really reasonably decent price point. Okay, it's taken off as these little farmhouse jams are known to do. Picked it up locally at a place. They actually had the La Petite Prince, which I've already reviewed. You're more than welcome to go check that out. One of my favorite low ABV chuggers. They had this one there too, and I was like, kind of just piqued my interest. I saw the word smoked, and love me some smoked beers. I know that's a mega the smoked beer, but I was like, okay, and mushrooms, sure. But it's this kind of psychedelic on mushrooms kind of label art that typically I'm not a big fan of this kind of like ultra psychedelic stuff, but something about this, I dig it, man. I dig it quite a bit, so it kind of piqued my interest, so I figured I'd pick it up. Yeah, a little underwater scene, psychedelics, very much kind of, oh god, what was his name? What is his name? He's still alive as far as I know. Tattoo artist. I really enjoyed. God, being out of the industry, I kind of forget his name now. But anyway, maybe it'll pop in here. But anyway, yeah, I dig on that art. And, Jester King as a whole, I dig on the brewery. They make very fun beers, and it's nice to see their stuff. They had a bunch of bottles and stuff like that. I didn't really have that much, or didn't want to spend that much money. And just figured I'd grab a couple of these kind of lower cost kind of cans and see where we lie with those. Now, as far as the beer goes, it looks, a little hazy pale, little farmhouse ale, little saison, grisette, all those kind of things it kind of looks like. 2 fingers, white as white could be, soapy kind of head to it, and just this glowingly straw-colored, slightly hazy jam going on there. So it looks the part of a little farmhouse ale. Let's see if we can get a nose. I'm not going to sit here and say, I smell mushrooms. I don't think that's really a thing. Mushrooms do have a little bit of an aromatic to them, but honestly, at this, in a drink, stuff like that, not really going to happen. There is a nice kind of soft tart farmhouse vibe going here. What you'd expect from something of Jester King, where there's subtle acidity to it, nothing like kettle soury to it at all, just a soft, subtle acidity you typically get from a low ABV kind of farmhouse ale from the ilk of Jester King and the like. But it's the salinity in here, and I know you're like, you're not smelling salt, dude. That's not happening. There's this minerality thing with water. When you smell it, you can tell that there's a decent amount of bits and pieces when it comes to minerals and whatnot in water, and you're definitely getting that here. So you're getting almost like a Goza-esque kind of vibe to it, without that kind of kettle sourness to it. Bright citrus notes, definitely leaning heavily pineapple with this bright citrus component, but then you get that salinity portion to show on the other end of things. And there's something else, something I can't put my finger on. It smells fun. Again, fun beer. We're hitting a theme here lately. It's gonna dive right in. Cheers, y'all. Okay. There's something super cool going on here. Man, it is bright. Very, very bright. So you get, again, just go back to rehash what I said in the notes, because it kind of follows through almost beat for beat. You get this slightly tart, acidic farmhouse vibe to it. Definitely separate from what you'd expect from a typical kind of kettle sour. There's a little bit more depth to it. There's a little bit more punchiness to it, while at the same time not be overly acidic, and just comes off as something a little bit more robust than what you get from that kind of soured brew. The combination of this stinging bittering which I assume is coming from a hop dose that is almost like an old school straight up. You're just getting the C's here, just a little bit of sharp kind of bittering on it with this cool kind of salinity thing here. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, okay, there's definitely a smoky characteristic of the salt in here, but there is a amped up salinity. It's not over the top kind of goza. It's not over the top like super hyper dosed like salt portion of the show, and almost like a heavy concentration of minerals with a little bit of extra salt added to it, almost like they brewed it with salt water and kind of comes off in that manner, but not over aggressive. And you're not like drinking going, wow, there's gobs and gobs of salt. It just accentuates and adds this kind of pop and the zing to the way that kind of acidity and the way that kind of soft little tartness of the Farmhouse portion of the show kind of brings. It just kind of amplifies that. Again, you have that bittering, you have that sharpness, and then you got this citrus portion of the show that kind of vacillates in between that kind of pineapple-y, grapefruit kind of thing. And then the last portion of the show, which is, I don't know what it is. And by that I mean, I can't tell you there's a big smoke component from sea salt. I can't tell you there's mushrooms in here, but I can also tell you there's something to this that I can't really put my finger on. Mm-hmm. Outside of a typical beer, and it's gotta be that. It has to be this portion, that's a word, portion of that addition to the beer, of that mushroom, of that smoke portion of that sea salt that is adding a little bit of chutzpah, a little bit of kind of juice to this thing that is just outside my realm of palate recognition, whatever the hell you want to call it. I just know there's something different. Just can't really register it and can't really be like, yeah, it's definitely a smoky, salty thing with this mushroom. No, I'm not going to lie to you and say that that's what I know it is, but I know there's something else to it. That kind of makes it really, really fun. Super summer in a glass. You wouldn't think about it. Salt. I mean, I guess you would to a certain extent because, you know, you have juice, salt, electrolytes, that kind of thing. But, the combination of that mushroom, that brightness of the farmhousiness, that salinity. Like, I've talked about this before with some of these beers like this, more specifically kind of kettle sours, so it's kind of cool to talk about it more in this kind of farmhouse realm. Very much Gatorade in a can, very much Gatorade in a glass, and that you feel like you're just, it's what plants crave. It's Brondo. It's in a very, very fun and tasty kind of way, and it's giving you this kind of just quenching kind of drink. Very similar to, quite a bit different, but Carton makes, I think it's called Digger. They make a beer called Digger, and I think it's like a saltwater, clam, shelly kind of combination. It's their kind of seashore kind of drink that is their version of what this is. And it's one of those beers that I'm not necessarily going to sit there and be like, yeah, I really just want to drink a case of those. When I have one on a nice hot summer day, it's a little toasty in here. Definitely looking for something quenching to drink. It kind of foots that bill in a very, very fun kind of Gatorade adulty kind of way. Not in a kind of weird, fruity, kind of synthetic, kind of Florida J. Wakefield kind of way. It's more of a kind of, natural electrolyte kind of way. No, I think it's fun. I'm not going to say Jester King's trying to be a goof here when it comes to like smoked salt mushroom beer. I think they take their beer very seriously. And I don't think this is kind of like they're viewing it as like, oh, we're making a funny goof beer. But I think it's a fun beer. And I'm not trying to say that in a negative way. That's what I'm trying to explain out here. Is that I think it's a really fun combination of ingredients you typically don't get in a kind of, I don't want to call Farmhouse Ale serious beer, but in a more serious kind of compartment, serious kind of delivery system. I think it works really well. I think it's really, really fun. And I'm definitely not bummed that I bought a 4-pack of it. It's one of those things where I'm going to get a hankering for this. I'm going to crack it. I think it's going to keep really, really well. So if you see this on the shelves, like down the road, this is 2 months change old. I can see this tasting and drinking quite nice for months down the road. So I don't think it's something that age is really going to turn on. But I end up thinking it's just like a really fun summery drink. And something that if you're into farmhouse ales, if you're into kind of unique flavors, so if you're a foodie person that's in the beer also, I think that's where this one really kind of hangs its hat, because it's giving you a lot of kind of food-like kind of elements. I mean, farmhouse ales lean that way to begin with. It's giving you those things in a very fun package. Is it one of the better Sea salt mushroom farmhouse sales. That's like, yeah, it's number 1 on that list. Farmhouse sales. It's not number 1. It's not Mount Rushmore. So it's probably not even close, but it's a fun beer. On the fun scale of things, it's very much up there, and I'm glad I got it. Value and availability, $14 American, off the shelf in New Jersey, and leave you with, if you like what we like this. If you like, if you're like farmhouse ales, you like unique flavors and textures, you're foodie that's into beers, I think this is really going to be something that you can find some interesting stuff into. If you want to have a conversation about beer, I think that's where this one lies a little bit different. A lot of times I'm like, it's a beer that can facilitate a conversation, yet also be a sidecar to just being a drinking beer. While this can be this, I think it's a little bit more of a talking point. So if you like fun, interesting beer, you'll dig this. There you go. Review in the books. Jester King, have you been to the brewery? Have you had their beers? Have you had this beer? I know somebody has because they mentioned it in the comments. I forget who it was now. They're like, oh, on the Petite Prince, they're like, was it Kevin Payne? Maybe somebody. I forget who it was. But anyway, he's like, oh, I had their Snorkel recently. I already bought it by then, so I was kind of excited to do this review. So if you've had this, let me know down there. Been to the brewery, all that fun stuff. Let's have that conversation. Hopefully you all enjoyed the review. Hopefully you're enjoying the little Jester King cans right now. Hope we'll see you next time. Cheers, y'all.